Ohio in the late 1700s, early 1800s was a rugged place. It was an arduous journey across the Alleghenies, probably down the Ohio and then up the Mississippi. Frankly, unthinkable at the time, but people did it. And I'm here, I'm proud. Oh, my mother-in-law's arrived. I'm proud to introduce the two founding fathers of Miamisburg. Tonight we have Mr. Zachariah Hole and Dr. John Treon. In 1797, Zachariah Hole came with his family from Virginia and built a house and later a stockade on this side of the Miami River. The Miami Indians, by the way, were on the other side of the river at that time. Not much is known about Zachariah, but he was the father of Dr. John Hole, and Dr. John Hole had already settled in a cabin at the intersection of Mad River and Alexandersville Bellbrick Road, giving his name to a stream as well as a school over in Washington Township. Dr. Treon. Dr. Treon is represented by our beloved mayor, Dick Church. Dr. Treon came to Hole Station in 1811 and settled in a cabin on what lot number 1 became. Dr. John Treon was the first doctor in our settlement. In 1818, 200 years ago, he married Eve Weimar, who lived in the vicinity of St. John's Church. She died in 1873. His second wife was Elizabeth, widow of H.D. Black and sister of Henry Weaver. Dr. John Treon died at the age of 96, which is remarkable in that era, in 1887. He's buried atop the most prominent hill at Hillgrove Cemetery between his two wives. That was a bad idea. The burial lot is surrounded by an iron fence, as it probably should be. His face is carved on the monument. In any event, I have the distinct honor and pleasure of introducing to all of you Dr. John Treon and Zachariah Hole. Gentlemen.
Break away.
Well, if it isn't Zachariah Hole.
And Dr. John Treon, by golly, it's been a while.
I heard you were back in the settlement, and I'm glad we've had this chance to run into one another because there's been a lot of questions on my mind. You got here in 1797, and I didn't come until after 1811. So I've always been curious why you picked where you did to build your house and later stockade.
Well, I have to kind of credit a son that I'm very proud of, by Dr. John Hole. When we lived in Virginia, he was quite a bright young man, and he actually went to England and became a doctor. When he moved back to the States, they put him right in and served in the Revolutionary War, where he was actually at Bunker Hill with George Washington. He was at the Battle of Quebec, and there was a famous general, Montgomery, who was killed standing right next to him. He hit him in the head, and he spun right around to Dr. John Hole's feet. In fact, Dr. John Hole said he did a lot of his stitching right from the light of cannon fire when he did that. So then, Dr. John Hole, after he had left and the service was over, he came to this area because, you know, they got granted some property and he bought some other ones. And he really liked it here, so he got word out there to me and my wife and 4 of my kids and says, why don't you move out here? So we come down towards Cincinnati and up the Miami River and kind of settled right here in this area. Beautiful place. There were some flats along the river here. You had the beautiful Indian mound, was kind of historical there, and we thought there could be a lot of fishing. I could do a lot of hunting, and of course the river would allow for transport there. Sure. And so that was the main reason that we came. Then, in about 1799, there was a man who was also a Revolutionary War soldier. In fact, he was a drummer. His name was Major George Adams. He came down from up north here where they were still fighting Indians. The Shawnees and the Miamis were right together. And he said, you know what? you ought to put a stockade around your house. So I went along with it, and of course, he helped, and he said, because if you're under an assault from any hostiles, you want the people to have somewhere to go. I thought, well, that's all right with me. Well, as that was to be kind of a gathering place, that's when it got the name of Hole Station, which I was kind of proud of that, and so forth. By the way, I might say, Major Adams, he was a cousin of Daniel Boone, even, and he ended up being an Indian fighter, but he left. He went and left us alone. Luckily, we never had any hostiles against us at all.
Well, really, the reason I wanted to catch you before, because when I heard you were in the settlement, I wanted to make sure you got word that 24 days from now, on February the 20th, there's going to be a town meeting. There's rumors that there's a lot of people want to change the name from Hole Station. Now, whether that happens or not, I don't know, but I wanted you to be aware because I didn't want you to have any hurt feelings and anything like that. There's four of us, Manuel Gephardt and my uncle Peter Treon and Jacob Kircher. We're going to be selling 90 lots to different people throughout the settlement. So that's going to be a big day. It's going to be a big day, but I wanted you to be aware of that.
Well, as far as the name change, that's why I'm here. I've got a grist mill over in Preble County. I always wanted a grist mill, and I figured the Miami River would probably take the water wheel right off the axle if I tried putting it on there. What we needed is a smaller running bottle of water through Miamisburg where we could put a mill. So I found one out in Preble County. Well, I was down at the blacksmith shop the other day, and some guy rode through there to have his shoes put on his horse or whatever. And he said, hey, weren't you from over around Hole Station? I said, yeah, that's my name. He said, well, rumor has it they're meeting and they're going to change the name of that. I said, well, that's fine. I guess I better get over there and visit. Well, it's still named Hole Station. So here I am, and I thought, well, where else better to put rumors to rest than down to Gephardt Tavern? So I dropped in there, and there was all kind of guys, sitting around and hitting the grog and all that kind of stuff. I thought I'd get the truth out of them. And sure enough, they said, we're going to change the name of the town. And boy, they were coming up with one we're going to call it Mound Town. I thought, well, that's not too bad. One was River Bend, now there's a bend in the river up here. That wasn't too bad. And then some of these people started feeling their oats, and one guy said, well, how about Gephardt Gap? Well, the Gephardt, and the other guy said, well, how about Kircher Corner? And then there were two other guys spoke up. One of them said, how about Hieronymus Haven? And then there was some guy from Kentucky way. And he wanted to call it Rutherford's Roost. So I thought, Lord Almighty. I said, all these names, I said, we better talk to some people across the river, like the Miami Indians. They have been very, very, very friendly to us. In fact, they actually helped some of us build our homes over here. They dug some of the clay and the dirt out of the earthworks and all that, and they have been very good. And I said, I think they ought to be included in this rather than everything be on this side.
I wanted to make sure that you weren't upset.
Not a bit, because the more I thought about it, I thought, if somebody was going to say great things happen in Hole Station, it just didn't have the ring to it that it ought to have. So,
well, when I think about this settlement and what it can be in the future, I think there are going to be some great things happening in this settlement, no matter what they call it. But are you planning on being here for the vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll see you.
Totally behind it.
Okay, we might tilt one that day. And,
we will. We'll go
okay.
right down there to Gephardt Tavern, and we'll apologize to Hieronymus and Mel Rutherford.
Yeah. Good to see you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, I got two more things. One, my wife, Phoebe, right as I'm walking outdoors, she said, say good hi to all the people down there, John and all them kind of things. And the second thing she said, if they finally got a barber shop there in Hole Station, shave and get your hair cut.
That was wonderful. Thank you, gentlemen. That was classic.